Le sommet international de l'éducation du futur réunit une soixantaine de conférenciers du monde entier. Des pionniers et des innovateurs issus du monde de l'éducation, bien évidemment, mais également des êtres inspirants, issus des chemins de sagesse ou des chemins d'apprentissage et de créativité dans différents domaines. Les arts, les sciences, l'économie, le lien avec la nature, le sport, etc. Des expériences et des chemins de vie qui sont un formidable enrichissement pour le monde de l'éducation. Le professionnalisme des traductions, en simultané, et l'incroyable richesse de toutes ces conférences offrent un horizon de point de vue vaste et varié, très complet, qui en font au final une véritable formation professionnelle pour les enseignants, les éducateurs et tous les professionnels de l'éducation, mais également une formation à la parentalité consciente et une formation individuelle à la vie consciente. Face à toute cette richesse et aux divers retours, nous avons décidé d'offrir toutes ces conférences à tous, partout dans le monde, en français et en anglais, quelquefois en allemand et en espagnol. Découvrez la vision d'acteurs audacieux et influents du changement, vers un monde éthique, solidaire, généreux et profondément respectueux de tous, des cultures, des peuples, des règnes et de la planète. Un incroyable panel de conférences, couvrant toutes les dimensions de l'éducation, pour un futur ayant du sens, une humanité épanouie et une terre qui respire. Une chose est sûre, votre vie, et à travers vous, celle des enfants, ne sera plus la même après avoir écouté toutes ces conférences. Pour avancer, nous avons besoin de vous, nous avons besoin de votre générosité solidaire. L'organisation du sommet et l'édition des conférences ont nécessité des milliers d'heures de travail et nécessitent encore beaucoup de temps et d'investissement. Nous faisons appel aux dons libres et spontanés pour compléter le financement du sommet et, si possible, continuer à l'enrichir de nouvelles conférences. Votre soutien est vraiment précieux et vital pour aller jusqu'au bout de cette aventure extraordinaire. Merci.
We are ready. Are you ready, Michael? Yes, I'm delighted to welcome you here, Michael. I'm also delighted to be here. Education is really dear to my heart. And it's a way to transform things and to use our energy to raise awareness and to bring awareness in every being. I met Michael because I lived in Quebec for 2 years. I also met Clarence Benoit Paquet, whom you met last week. And Michael is known for the essential oils and everything that he has done in aromatherapy. But Michael, you were also a teacher. You used to work in education, and this is a passion for you. And then you stopped working in the educational world to follow your path around nature, the essence. And what you saw in the educational world was not really something that was positive or fulfilling for you. And I got in touch with you, and it's true that at one point in time you should wonder why a specialist in aromatherapy is invited in a summit about education. But that's because we want to invite people who have developed knowledge and know-how about education. And I know Michael very well. I know that he has many wonderful things to share with us through his experience in aromatherapy and everything that he's done throughout his life for education. And I'm delighted that you are here with us. Well, thank you very much, Abel. And it's clear that if you want to put a label on me, you can say that I'm a specialist in aromatherapy. But we are all closely related. We are all interconnected. And in my view, aromatherapy is about the essence of flowers and plants, meaning that we want to focus on what is essential. We are on the path to what is essential. And as we say, the essential things are invisible to our eyes. We can only see them with our hearts. That's what the little prince said. And in everything we do, we should try to define how we can be integrated in the world, how we can transform the world with our light, with our conscience, and we should not remain in a box, because very often in schools you're just placed in a box. And I was lucky enough, and I had the honor to attend a meeting in Paris with people who were working in the world of education. Pierre Rabhi was there. We were on the same round table, and we talked about education, and we said that through our action, through culture, through life, through gardens, we can really change and transform our vision of the world. And if you look at plants and flowers growing, you should do that with children and young people, to respect what is around us, to respect trees. If you take a tree to build your house, you're not destroying the tree, and the tree can be happy because it's now part of that structure. But if the tree is cut for nothing, if it's just because we want to replace those trees by other trees that we want to use for industrial purposes, then there's no respect. And we need to show respect, and then we need to be mindful of what we do and put consciousness in what we do. When I work on my essential oils, I put conscience in the oils, so that the person who buys the essence will smell the essence and will not only benefit from the perfume and the aroma, but also the energy, the spirit, because our energy can transform things. Our thoughts, our actions transform and change things around us. And the world really needs this transformation today, because we're moving away from the mind, from the spirit. We're focusing on material things, but we are made of a body, a soul, and a spirit, a mind. And we have those three elements. And the spirit, the mind, enables me to see the plants and the trees and the soul of the tree that is no longer there if you cut the tree. This is what is called the anima. This is what is living, what gives you animation, life. And then you have the spirit that sees the body and enables me to be aware, conscious. I'm conscious of what I am. And then thanks to my willingness, I can transform things. I can choose. I can choose to love. I make that choice. And if something disturbs me, I can choose to transform that thing. I can change myself, and I can change the environment around me, thanks to my will. And that's very important, because I have that will. And we all have that will, that desire, but sometimes, and even often, we forget about it. We forget about our spirit, our sense, our being, and what is divine in us, inside us, what is universal, and that's very important. And in the world of education, because I had the opportunity to work with a master who founded the university in Egypt. And if you look at what was written, he wrote books in about 30 languages. He was a minister for education, and I was his personal secretary. I had the opportunity to travel with him at the end of his life, and Taha Hussein was a very important man in the choice for education. He said that education should be free, like air and water. And of course, education, sometimes people say that it cannot be free and free of charge, but it's very important. And in each gesture, we educate. So in everything we do, we need to be aware and mindful, and we shouldn't act in an automatic way. And this is our capacity as human beings. We are beings. The word being represents the spirit, and the word human comes from humus. It's what is making us human. It's vertical. And we need to look at our development, our evolution that happens at the intersection between the human and the being. And in the United States of America and in Canada, you have the symbol of the wheel. And the wheel of medicine is actually a cross in a circle. And you can find orientation on the basis of that wheel of medicine. But the medicine wheel is a synonym for healing. How can you feel? How can you be related to your being? And how can you be incarnated? When we talk about the archangel Michael killing the dragon is a being with wings. It's like an eagle, but at the same time, it's a reptile on the earth. The dragon is the symbol of the human being. And the word used is actually striking the dragon, terrasser in French, which includes the word terre, which means earth. And that's how you can transform nature around you, but in a positive way. So you're building something without destroying. That's really the message. Building without destroying. And when you see Isis, she always wears wings, and like the eagle, but she also has the symbol of the cobra. That's also a reptile. So in Egypt and everywhere in the world, you can see those two aspects that we have to honor. We need to be aware of the fact that we are human beings and not only machines that need to be educated and placed in boxes. So this is an educational system that is based on openness, on awareness raising. Yes, I would like to tell people that you come from Egypt, so it's not a coincidence if you're telling us about Isis and pharaohs. But I would like to know how plants change your life. When I was young, I understood how important it is to observe plants, to go and collect the plants at the right time with mindfulness in a conscious way. And we used to go to gardens and pick the flowers and the plants. And when I was a kid, I was looking at the palm trees. And we had to wait until the fruits were ripe, and you needed to be patient, and you had to be patient, and then you would be happy to see this transformation, because the fruits are green, then they turn to yellow, and then little by little they turn to red. And if you keep them, they will become even riper, and you will be able to keep them for a very long time. So that's how you learn about this interaction between human beings and the environment. And this interaction should be positive. The education is to know how we can interact with the environment in a positive way and not in a destructive way. And that's the essence of education. It's the development of a person as a whole, with all of its aspects, but in a positive way, in a creative way. How to interact with our physical environment, the human environment, the spiritual environment, the cultural environment, everything that surrounds us. And thank you very much for what you do. It's beautiful, it's wonderful. I met Claire. That was a coincidence just before her conference, and it's amazing. It's incredible to see how pieces come together. It's really amazing to see that this synchronicity. And you should not worry, because things will come up when it's time for them to emerge. And you shouldn't try and control the universe, because we're part and parcel of the universe, and we should be in harmony with what is surrounding us. Michael, has it happened to you to have the opportunity to share this passion for plants and flowers in schools with children? Have you had the opportunity to work in schools with children? Yes, very often they come to my garden because I created a garden that looks like a maze, just like in Chartres. Because in Chartres, in the cathedral, once a week on Friday, they move away the chairs, actually. They take away the chairs, and they enable people to play in the maze. But I must say that there's a difference between the word labyrinth and the word maze. In a maze, you have to get lost, and then you'll try to find the door to get out of the maze. But in the labyrinth, you just follow the different paths and you reach the heart of the labyrinth. And that's the pathway to life. That is the Jerusalem path. Shalom is peace. Jerusalem is a place for peace. And I hope that this is going to be an awakening for everyone, because many people go to Jerusalem but they should try to be together, to sing, to dance, and to cultivate this joy about living, about being on the planet, because the planet is amazing. This is a very small planet. It's part of the solar system. And our sun is a star. And we have this galaxy and the Milky Way, because it's like milk, and it includes billions of stars, and there are billions of galaxies. And you can also compare that to what is very, very small. In one drop of water, you have billions and billions of molecules, and it's just incredible. How is it possible to have billions and billions of molecules in just one small drop of water? And I'm always full of wonder in the face of what is very small and what is very, very large. the universe that is so big. It's just magnificent, incredible. And when children come to my garden, I show them how to follow the pathway around the labyrinth, because I created a labyrinth with the plants as it was done in Chartres. And my neighbors said, well, it's incredible to what you're doing, because you're replacing grass by plants, and each plant has its own place. And I show children how they can recognize the plants, how they can smell them, and how they can interact, because the essence of the plant will actually penetrate the essence of life, the way you smell things. And all these words are important. They give meaning to our lives, and we need to be awake. We need to be aware, and we should not remain in ignorance. And that's what education is all about. We have to get out of ignorance and recognize not only the rules that should be applied, but we should discover our essence and have a positive interaction. And how can I interact? Well, when I worked as a teacher, I was teaching children who were considered as disabled children. They had many problems, social issues. And I told them, the first thing you should learn is to learn how to cook. How can you cook food, prepare food? Food is very important. How am I going to feed? What am I going to eat? Am I going to eat just anything that I can find? Or am I going to try to determine what I want to eat? If I would like to eat some fruit, for example, if you want to pick an apple in an apple tree or grapes, you'll have to wait for the fruit to be ripe. They will be full of sugar. And if you want to eat apples, very often you'll pay someone to pick the apples, and they will pick the apples all at the same time. But actually, apples are not ripe all at the same time. You have some apples that are good one day, others will be ripe the next day. And if you pick and gather everything at the same time, you're not in contact with the tree. And you need to be able to determine what is best for you and how you can transform that so that this thing can be useful to me for a long time. And you should feed on what is best for you, not just to make sure your stomach is full and then stop my stomach from screaming because it's hungry. No, I'm not simply trying to stop my hunger. I try to see how I can feed best, and I really teach that to children. How can you cook a meal and then eat it together around the table and have this interaction with nature, this interaction between myself and what surrounds me. And this is how I can bring the best. But I would like education to be a tool, but not only a tool, a conscience. That's really the top. We need to climb all the way to the top. And when you're at the top, you can look all around you in all directions. So we need to climb. And if you want to reach the top, the summit, you have to climb and you have to make efforts. You're not going down, you're going up. You have to make efforts, and this can awaken you. And we can also provide support to one another. When you go climbing, some people will show you the way. others will support you and help you so that you can climb higher and higher. And once you're at the top, it's just amazing to see the vision that you can have. You can see everything. Now, if you go rock climbing in the mountains, you'll see everything around you, the lakes, the nature. And it's really important to be amazed because this is all wonderful. Michael, are there schools or teachers who use your essences in their classrooms? Yes, we've tried that in many classrooms. And when we diffuse the essence, you can use an equipment, of course, a diffuser, but you can also use just a few drops of the essence that you like. And if you diffuse peppermint, for example, it's going to enable you to remain open, awake, and to be conscious. But then if you want to calm down, you can use other essential oils. For example, orange or other citrus fruit or chamomile. And I also prepare synergies. And it's like a meal. The essential oils should be mixed, but you should find a balance so that it can be harmonious. Because if you put too much chili, for example, your dish will be too spicy. So I create synergies, and there are synergies to fight against infections, for example. I usually use 5 essential oils to prepare this quintessence. And this enables the essential oils to calm down children in the classrooms. And I also use these synergies to fight against infections, because when you're all sitting in the same room next to one another, if you touch the same sheets of paper, the same books, if you're close to one another, it's amazing to see the results. I used essential oils in several classrooms, and it was amazing to see that, for example, there was less absenteeism in those classrooms. And in the daycare center, they said it was amazing because no one was sick. No one was absent, even though all the children were together. And we tested the same thing in a residential home. In one section, we tested essential oils to promote that protection, and we let the other half without essential oils. And we compared to the two groups, and we realized that people were feeling much better in the group with essential oils. They were using less medication. They had fewer problems. And in the Armand Frappier Institute, which is like the Louis Pasteur Institute here in Quebec, they did some research about the effects of the essence of conifer on the bacillus that is responsible for tuberculosis. And they realized that the fir essential oil could destroy the tubercle bacillus. And they were quite surprised because people are not talking about these solutions. And we're not talking about that because you have pine trees everywhere. In Christmas, at Christmas, you'll choose your Christmas tree. And In the past, you would put the Christmas tree next to the fire. You also had candles in the tree, and it was not destroying the tree. It was simply because then the tree could diffuse those aromatic essence. And if the family is together in the living room around the Christmas tree, this could reduce the dissemination of bacteria and viruses. And it's amazing to smell the aroma of the fir tree if it's placed next to the fire. And in nature, these pine trees protect other trees from bacteria and from other problems. They can also guarantee protection against harmful insects. It's amazing to see the interaction between trees. And they are very conscious of others. And if I respect the tree, if I try to prune the tree, to transform it, well, in the wood, I can still find this vital energy. It is not being destroyed. It is full of energy. And recognizing this energy is important. And you should try to develop your awareness. And you know, here is a small pyramid, and we sometimes talk about the big pyramid. And there are two huge pyramids, the pyramid of Cheops and Minos. And they said that they were built to bury Pharaoh. But it's just impossible to imagine that you would build such a structure as a tomb, only as a grave. It was built with an amazing energy, and if you're inside the pyramid, you will be in a huge room that is a sacred place. And this is where we would also place the seeds to get some energy, and you would leave the seeds for a few months in the pyramid, wheat or other seeds, and they would grow much faster afterwards. Once you put those seeds in the ground, they were stronger, and the ear or the wheat head was stronger, was more resistant. And you know, they did some research and they built pyramids to see whether this would create energy. And actually, if you put a razor blade, it would also be sharper in the pyramid. So there's really an energy that circulates in the pyramid. But we forgot all about this. It's the energy that comes from the shape of the pyramid. And I was in Strasbourg, in France, and there was a group that was working on geobiology, and they were demonstrating how the shape could transform things. It depends on where you are, how you are located in a room. It has an impact on us, but we do not know about that. We put that aside. When you want to build a house, you need to know where to place it, how to place it. And we have forgotten all about that knowledge. We only look at the structure, the foundations, the roof, but we do not pay attention to the orientation of the house. And I think that's very important. The crystals are a source of energy. And here I have crystal balls. But it's really amazing if you look at them.
Quartz crystals are to be observed. You can see point here, there are always 6 sides. They are opposed, 2 by 2. So it forms an angle, and that angle is always the same for all quartz. And it's the angle of the big pyramid, as if the pyramid would be a big crystal. Everywhere in the world, when you measure that angle, it's always the same. So this knowledge is to be shared to the young, to respect things, to respect every stone. It's not there to sport is always about competition. No, let's play together. Let's have pleasure and share, have fun and grow together while respecting the others and not in a spirit of competition. At school, it seemed stupid to me to rank people. I hated to be the first. I was always the last because my name is Zayat. I had the time to learn my lessons while the others were presenting it to the teacher. Going out of the rules and showing that you can go beyond them. Even grammar. In grammar, it is said that you have to write subject, verb, and complement. Okay. And a student said no. Uh, he is now making talking about a fable from Jean de La Fontaine, explaining something about grammar, that in a poetic fable text, words are not always in the right position. We have to go beyond syntactic rules. I realize there is all this. We cannot stay close. We have to go out and walk in the pathway of joy, peace, and love. To stroll freely and to be accompanied by people in the garden of life. With Veronique, she had plants and we put them in the garden, and young people, children from a childcare home came to see it. I see them on a regular basis. It's it's a little child inside me that who likes to be with them. I like to communicate with them and to show them that respecting others and respecting the mum. In Quebec, Saint Anne is the patron saint of the city. Respecting, passing on education, while leaving the child in liberty. The feminine aspect is very important. Isis is the goddess is a goddess, and she gave the first man to the Russians. And it is important. No, I'm sorry, not to the Russians, to Horus. So, respecting the mom and the feminine aspect. It is sacred, but in many cultures, it is not there. Ramchandra talks about respecting the feminine aspect. In Nepal, you were there to the orphanage. It's important what you did. He was among the guests of the summit. Tomorrow, Veda, the second child that he welcomed at the ashram, who will talk about his pathway. He began to teach at 12. He's very young and now leading the school. Young girls are also sometimes abandoned, don't want to enter into all this, but what he does is really important. And when these children will grow up in these places, will pass on the teachings. And it's an important example to say this, to see this young man that will talk tomorrow, passing on joy, the importance of being awake, of respecting the others. He's a monk who decided to transform things, and he did it. I see it is possible when you decide things. And maybe you're not the only one to do it, because there is the energy in the universe of life, of love, to accompany me. I see a lot of messages. There are no questions, but messages. People say, "Oh yes." It's quite. Sometimes people listen without making comments, but here people react and add. We are spiritual. Isis and ancient wiseness of Egypt. Teaching is having a positive impact on the environment. Labyrinth as a garden. There is a book that explains how to use it to teach. It's beautiful, this idea of education as climbing a mountain. And once you arrive at the summit, to have an enlarged vision of the world. Thanks to all the people who helped us go to the summit. Essential oils are very strong. I use them with children and in my yoga courses. Intelligence of the trees, crystals, many comments. Many people share their views. A nice invitation to go beyond grammar rules. Great. People are touched, and it shows how all disciplines participate to life. And beyond education, there are many, many things to learn. Plants taught you uh, a vision of what is essential, and it transpires everywhere in your life on the way you envisage education. And plants may also have an important impact in schools. You're right. Go out, have a nice yard at school, a place where the young can see plants grow, see the magic, and that they can do things that bring a result. To sow seeds and see plants grow and see our contribution. When we do something, it brings something. I think that Steiner, all these masters who brought things, we have to go out of Montessori, Steiner, wait for the child to or stimulate young or stimulate later. All these approaches should work in harmony, and we should envisage the child and help them grow and recognize their environment. It's not something that should be done only at school. I had a master in Ottawa. I was his research assistant doing my PhD in Ottawa. And Atanas, who came from Lithuania, told us fantastic things. He said education is a life process. What, from womb to tomb. From the womb to tomb. It's a lifelong process. I educate myself, I learn all the time. I never stop education when I have my degree. I go on learning and I pass on information. I receive and I give. Learning to receive and to take the best. And he said, don't read good books. What does he mean by that? Read only the best. What are the best books? You have to find the best yourself, said the teacher. What is the best for you now? Because tomorrow it will be something else. You have to find the best book for yourself. And how do you do this? Okay, just let yourself be guided. Your being will find it. You will find the paragraph you need to read. This is something magic. How does that work? What is this synchronicity about? It goes beyond any knowledge. It's not because I do not control it that it does not exist. I'm skeptical, but when I see things like that, I say, okay, there is something connected with magic. The soul is acting. When I listen to you, Mikael, I think we could imagine thousands of experiences to make at school, to create pyramids, put seeds in them, to discover all these laws and all this magic. Exactly. And with very simple things. To bring the young to understand how to do simple things, how to cook an egg, how to transform it, how to recognize a fresh egg from another one. We do not take the time to show that because we are in classrooms and you're closed. You have to take the bus to go to school. Everything is organized to protect children. It's fine, but we should go further than protecting them. We have to awaken their awareness. I decide to build and I have a look and discover how my construction be sustainable and useful. It is important to wake up and to be in the light. It's important to realize that when you open a door, there is light on the one hand and darkness on the other. Darkness will never be able to enter the lightened room. The light always wins. So you have to stay with this openness. I was in schools. Well, there was no windows and you couldn't see the light. And I said, this is not a life venue. It's nice for essential oils that have to stay in the dark, but you should not raise kids in such conditions. So that to make sure they are focused. Of course not. They have to have a look outside. At one point I can be inside, but to have the possibility to go out, to recreate. What I liked best at school was recreation. Recreate. 4 hours of recreation and 15 minutes studying. A teacher says that in his classroom they put rice in a bowl with words on it. He did that experience. Now schools include the teachings that are very interesting today and important. We begin the Aquarius era and the awareness opening to realize that through this ability, digital possibilities, to be able to pass on the best and not enter a wheel that has no meaning. We have to open, discover what's best in everything and use the tools as you do to bring conscience, to have it, to awaken conscience. It is very important to gather, to feel you're not alone, and that together we are able to transform the energy that we need. We need love on this planet. One of the good reasons for children to go to school is friends and recreation. And just for that, they are ready to suffer and to endure what is in the classroom. Mathematics can be taught differently, explaining things. geometric forms. A pizza is round-shaped. It is cut in triangles, put in a square box. Yeah, with pizza it would work, I'm sure. How can you transform things? To play with forms, to have fun, and calculate in reality and not only mentally. How to calculate the perimeter of a circle, magic of a figure, P, for instance. You can go very far. There are thousands of figures with P. It's not only 3.1416. There are many, many others afterwards. This magic is there when we should not stay stuck with rules, but we should be open to the beauty of the universe and the infinite. If I understand well, all you're studying plants with a school of magic, yes, and deciding every day, I welcome love in myself and I'm happy, and I look at the beauty around me, even if things are not beautiful, I transform them and I send love so that they change. It's my way to see that waste, for instance, is the source of compost. All this can feed the fields to bring life again and help vegetables grow. You don't need to use chemicals to have your vegetables grow. Roundups, for instance, etc. All this destroys and advantages only part of the plants, and all this goes away in water, and it destroys the waters and the sea. We have to be made aware of it. We shouldn't be anxious. We have to say to the young, we live on a planet that is fragile, and we have to do each gesture I do take a cigarette butt and throw it away rather than leaving it. These little gestures, actions, raise awareness of the young to the environment. Today in India, with the fires that the heat that is terrible over there, there are many fires in wastelands. We have to recycle, reuse, consume less with intelligence, being aware of our environment. I am not just a consumer, I am someone who builds consciously. I build in conscience. Education is very important. Are there questions? While listening to you, I said to myself, the next summit will be the summit of education magic, inviting magicians of the education. It is important to be together and to support each other, to go forward, to wake up. I invited a lot of magicians actually. It's a common point. It's to foster magic of life, which is everywhere, and to go in that direction. It was the message of almost all the speakers. It is indeed very important. I'm also very happy it is recorded, so we can suggest people to see this or that conference. And we should not forget what you do. Together we will support each other so that it's lighter for each and every one of us. It's the opportunity to say that I have dozens of conferences uh, and I don't know what to do with them. So here I have an old computer. I don't know what to do with it. I will need help with the editing of all this. It is very important indeed to realize that yes, and you should ask very clearly. You're right to ask for it because it's not easy. What you do is not easy. the the computer heated up too much.
So we need to find the tool that can help us. So just a mistake from my part. The interpreter was on the French channel speaking English. So, is this conference being translated automatically? No, these are people, human beings translating simultaneously. Very professional. Well, that's amazing, wonderful, difficult to imagine. So all the conferences are either in French or in English, and we had speakers who would speak German. That was translated into French and English. When the speaker was speaking French, just like Claire, it was translated into English, German, and Spanish. We really used all the languages and we played with all the languages. Now, it's true that French is widespread throughout the world. In Africa too, and I hope that we will go on respecting the language. It's a magnificent language. It's very poetic. It's a rebel also. It's very beautiful. And it's full of subtlety and the beauty of the French language is wonderful. Now, I've just seen a comment from a friend from Spain, and she went to Quebec and she remembers visiting your garden. And Isabel says that she really likes your intervention. She doesn't have any question, but she really appreciated your intervention. Anaïs really loves the magic. And then someone saying that they're on a cloud. That's Natalie. She's on a cloud. Yes, and with the sun, the water gets warmer and it's becoming a cloud. It travels throughout the world and then it comes back as water to feed the plant and feed the earth. That's beautiful. Now, Maria is asking a question. How can we maintain trust in education for children? I guess that's the question. I'm not sure I understand. So, how can you make sure that children still trust the education system? That's what I understand. And Lorenzo says that there are open source licenses. So yes, Lorenzo, if you can help us on that at a later stage, it would be great. And the heat of the sun travels around the planet and then comes back to feed the plants in our gardens. Yes, that's amazing. And it's magic. When I learned that the sun was actually sending photons everywhere, but they're not visible because they're so fast and they travel. But when something stops the photons, then we can see them. For example, the moon enables us to see the sun during the night because the photons aren't reflected, and the Earth does the same. It's a blue planet, but that's thanks to the reflection of light. So we stay in that light, and we need to know that darkness is also full of light and photons. But we have to put something in between to see the light, to see that light. These are things that we didn't know in the past. We were not aware of the fact that light is everywhere. And we should not stay with that energy to stay in things that are dark and destructive. And we need to be aware that we need darkness too, because darkness is the reflection of light. If there was light everywhere, we would not see it. And so darkness enables to see things. So thank you to life. I'm delighted that I had the opportunity to share these thoughts with you, with those who are here today and those who will watch the video later. I have a question, Michael. What is the biggest magical thing that you learned through the plans? What was the strongest, the most intense thing, magical thing you learned? Well, I remember a tree that I was looking for everywhere. And when I found it, I saw that it was a solid and robust and strong tree. But the thorns were so small, so smooth. And still, even if it was so small, it was containing life. And this strength could also disseminate softness, gentleness. So you could find this energy of love, even though it's a strong tree. And the top of the tree was turned towards the east to guide us. And I was really moved in looking at that hemlock tree. And if you use the wood of that tree, you can build a house, the frame of a house, because it's very strong. It's a very sustainable source of wood. And then at the bottom of the tree, under the snow, when snow starts melting, you can see small flowers, and it's magical. It's magic. And when small children come with me, they often see the flowers. I didn't see them because they were so small and really at the level of the ground, and they were amazed to see those beautiful flowers. When I was young, we used to buy roses, and they were very smelly. It was beautiful. But the wild roses have a better perfume yet. If you let flowers in nature, they can share that essence. And it's really important to welcome that smell, this fragrance, and to promote this magnificence, this joy, to stay in that state of joy. Now, of course, when you travel, you see many different plants. What is quite magic is to see the laurel in the south of France. The smell, the fragrance, the flowers of the laurel. But then I also like wild plants, such as wild lavender on the Mont Ventoux. It's so beautiful to walk around and see these flowers growing everywhere. Now, it's not a field of lavender. Sometimes you see those pictures with fields of lavender. But it's really nice to find them in the wild. And this fragrance is really connecting us to our heart. When I used to work in a school with children, I used to live in that region in the south of France, and we would go to the mountain with the children, and we would take bread and peanut butter because it's really easy to eat that during the summer. And we would prepare sandwiches, and we would add flowers of lavender in our sandwiches to add this taste, and it was just delicious. Yes. And that's why they call it the Mont Ventoux, because there's a lot of wind. Vent in French means wind. And it's true that everything is magical. In France, you have many magical regions. It's a country that I really like. And then we also had another speaker coming from Switzerland, and Switzerland is also a very beautiful country. It's really nice to walk around Switzerland in the mountains. The lakes are just wonderful. And Michael, what I can see is that I invited you as an aromatherapist, but actually you're really talking about the whole world, because the essence of the plants is connecting us to the whole world. Yes, and what is magic is that as a producer, there are many Japanese people who came to distill flowers here, and then in their country they opened aromatherapy centers, and this connects us to the world thanks to the essence. And we have essence coming from all corners of the world. And people know about our essences, and sometimes they come to see us with plants I have never heard of, and they're showing us beautiful things. So it really creates links and connections with the whole planet, and it's important to respect that. And this is what I said to the young people I worked with. We wanted to pick wild peppermint, and I told them, be careful, we should not pick everything. We're going to walk around and choose the plants that are ready, that are starting to flower and blossom, because that's where you will find the best fragrance. And peppermint produces a fragrance that rejects the insects first, but then the mentone becomes menthol to attract insects. And it's really important to pick the flower at the right time to benefit from that fragrance. And this is the knowledge that I want to share, that I want to pass on through workshops and meetings such as this one. It's very important. It's very important to know how you can do things correctly, how to learn. That's what education is all about. It's learning to become wise. Wisdom means that you have deep knowledge about things, and it's not just a superficial or hollow knowledge. And is there a plant or an essence that really struck you, that really touched you or moved you? You told us about the hemlock and other trees, but what is the plant that really struck you? Well, when I was a kid, it was cumin, turmeric. We would use the powder, and that's really pleasant when you smell it, when you taste it. And what I learned is that it can be used against flatulence caused by the consumption of beans. And so you can use turmeric to avoid flatulence when you eat beans. This is something that I learned at a later stage, but in Egypt, this is something that was very appealing. And that's why we also like turmeric, actually, because this is what our body needs, and it's calling for that. And you know, the fragrances, the smells have an impact on us. At the time I was trying to put my child to sleep and it was not working. I was trying to calm him down. And then I took a shirt from his mother and I put the shirt next to the baby. And it was efficient. He felt he was surrounded by the smell of his mother. And that smell is really important. And in France, you also have the therapy based on smells. If a fragrance repels you, you can try to understand why you have this negative reaction. And then you can try to solve the problems you may have. Mr. Fournier worked on olfactory therapy, and he explains that the smells are not only useful to heal, but it's also something that has a psychological impact. It can help you and support you. And it's true that lavender will clean you, cleanse you. It's purifying. In Egypt, you also have cologne produced with lavender. It comes from the city of Köln in Germany. But that smell can also help you. And I remember my parents would use that cologne to be purified, for purification, to keep a good smell, and to protect ourselves. So it's not only a smell to hide our odor, our smell, but it's also using that fragrance to protect ourselves. Yes, Anaïs said in the chat that the other day she smelled the essence and of tarragon, and that she was really moved. There were many emotions that came up. Is there a link between tarragon and emotions? Well, I believe that it's not specific to the plant or to the essence of tarragon. Each person individually will receive a different message from the plant. And the blood of the dragon is an essence that comes from Peru. It is well known. And it's going to produce a fatty oil, and the essence of the dragon's blood has a very subtle smell, and it's going to help you to protect the skin, and it will regenerate the skin. It's called the dragon's blood. It comes from Peru. And I'm still exploring these new essences. But it's true that sometimes some smells will just repel us and we don't like it. But it's interesting to understand why. Is it related to a soup that I had to eat at school or when I was a child? You know, there were spices and herbs used in the meals, and each essence can have this connection and remind you of that connection with us. There's always a connection with an idea or a memory. And it's important to welcome that and to take the best essence for me today, the essence that will attract me. If I smell the apple and if I think, it smells good, I would like to eat it, it's making me salivate, then my body is helping me to know what is good for me today. So the nose knows, and the nose can really help me to make that choice. Yes, and Anna is saying that the essence that she smelled, the tarragon, related her to her ancestors. And Isabel wishes you a very happy birthday. Yes, I turned 77 years old. When I was young, I never thought it would be possible to live that long. 77 years old. I thought that was really old at the time. But now you don't think you're old. No, I feel really young. I still want to do many things. I still want to travel, to learn and know things. And I'd like to come back to the Hexagon, to France. I think it's a magnificent country, a beautiful country, with all the seas, the beaches, Brittany, Normandy, Provence. And I went to Mont Saint-Michel and I saw all the plants that are growing there. And it's just beautiful. That place is beautiful. And to see that beauty that is connecting to us, and then we can connect to our environment, and then we can thank all the beings who build all that. And then we can go on building, constructing, and not ignoring all that beautiful energy, as I said. Michael, that was really a praise to wonder. Yes, indeed. It's something that is really wonderful. And it's very important to feel that delight, that marvelous feeling. And I would like to thank you very much for everything you do. And I really feel grateful to you, Abel, for organizing this summit, for giving us this opportunity to share our thoughts, and then to give us access to these documents, to this material. And I hope that with your computer, you will make sure that this conference is still available for a long time and that people can have access to the summit. Well, you know, the summit was put in place and it just happened like that. That's the magic of life. And so maybe things will not happen as I was planning. It never happens the way you planned. But different things will happen, and I think that we're going to follow different paths. But it's true that it's moving for many people. We have shared very rich things. It's been very rich those last few days. Yes, absolutely. It was wonderful. And I would like to thank you, Michael, for contributing to that wealth, to that rich exchange. Yes, I think it has a multiplying effect. What you give can be multiplied. This is something that I've realized. And then there's something else that I find interesting and important. For example, when you give something to two people, and if you ask each one of them to give to two other people, then you have this amazing multiplying effect. And how can you reach 8 billion people on the planet? You know, you can make the calculation. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. That's 5 moves. But then if you want to reach 8 billion people, in your view, how many levels do you need? Is it 1,000? And I answered, no. It's only 33. 33 steps to reach 8 billion people. That's amazing. That's incredible. Yes, I'm sure that many people do not realize that. So the more you give, you know, you don't have to give to 8 billion people. You can give to 2 people and ask them to pass that on to 2 other people and ask them to do the same. And then after 33 steps, you reach 8 billion people. Yes, 33. 32, 64, and you can go on with the calculations. And you can reach 1,000 after 10, and then you can reach 1 million, 2 millions, 1 billion, 2, 4, 8 billion. So you only need 33 stages to reach 8 billion people. And it's incredible to see the pace with which you can pass on those things. And so on the planet, you can try to pass on this love, the energy of love, and you can ask other people to pass on that energy again to others. And it's incredible, this multiplying effect. It's amazing. It's unbelievable. But our mind is not ready to receive all that, so we have to listen to our hearts. This is what the Little Prince said. You know, I was really fascinated by the novel of Saint-Exupéry when I was in Egypt. And I would like to thank life for meeting that, for having the opportunity to meet you and attend this conference and to share those thoughts with people who are listening to us. Well, this story, this multiplying effect is just magnificent. So thank you very much, Michael, for being with us. Well, thank you. Now we're going to welcome Dan Milner.